Hello, it's Adil bringing you a review of the US markets end of day wrap up and what I expect according to my understanding of intermarket analysis as to what's going to happen, where we are, and whether or not this market is actually going to stall or is going to move lower or obviously accelerate to the upside. Okay, so from the outset I expect acceleration from the upside, but let's see what this market is telling us and let's try and come to some sort of conclusion in this short video. I'll try and keep it as short as I can. Okay, so fundamentals, obviously Asian markets higher overnight overall. You had the Shanghai and you had the Nikkei higher, so that obviously gave us a cue, given the fact that that should have caused some sort of stability in the markets. Obviously European markets screaming to new highs, except the FTSE, the DAX, CAC, obviously that should certainly have provided a catalyst. Given the fact that it's like a relay race where it's risk on in one continent obviously leads to risk on in another continent. So based on intermarket analysis, that should have sent us and propelled us higher, especially the German DAX. I mean, the German DAX is very, very powerful. If you look at the German DAX, and you can see that green candle closed today, obviously as soon as Mr. Draghi spoke, that should have provided the catalyst really for the markets to continue their stellar rally higher, and obviously create a pivot low in the US markets. Obviously that's not been the case, so let's try and decipher as to what's happening here. Okay, let's start with the Dow. Okie dokie. So the Dow HNS target is around the 17,970 level. Obviously the HNS has more or less been completed, given the fact that we've had quite a substantial drop. You do have this alternative HNS, so let me just get rid of this. Obviously that support level has gone now. If we get rid of this, okay, and let's just draw our trend lines in here. Okay, so obviously we've been respecting that there, and you've got the HNS more or less in this region here. Let me just draw that in. Okay, so in the larger scheme of things, obviously one would point to this here. That was your head, obviously your right shoulder bounce, and obviously we're moving lower. Now that certainly is open, given the fact that you've got 18,290 down to 17,880, so you're looking at a 400 point drop on the actual index, which takes you around to this 17,500 17,400 level on the downside. So that's certainly worth giving some thought with regards to the HNS. Okay, we obviously have failed to hold this pivot support here. At the moment the 60-minute chart is pretty vague in terms of support, obviously down to the 17,500 level, but the daily chart, obviously as you can see, quite a substantial sell-off. We failed to hold that 50% fib, and we have put in a potential doji pattern reversal here, so we'll see exactly how that transpires. So let me just update this. Obviously that support level's gone, this is gone, this is gone, this is gone. Get rid of all this now. The only thing that one could do really is take the pivot low from here, connect it to the pivot low there or there. If you were to take the first pivot low, obviously that gives you this key support level here. So again, using your fib retracement, you take the pivot low, take it to the pivot high, and you are into that 50-61% fib support, and obviously you've got this key trend line going higher. That's something certainly keep a note of with regards to the actual Dow Jones Industrial. So from a daily chart, you are looking at potential support, although very vague, and also 60 minutes at the moment. Again, you're in no man's land really. To be honest with you, there's no real solid support until we get to the 17,500 level, which is a cause for concern if you are bullish. Okay, the 10-minute chart on the Dow 30, just to confirm, just in case those that are obviously think it's a Dow Transports. Okay, so you're taking the pivot highs, just connecting the pivot highs together. You're taking the pivot low from here, it's connecting them together, and you are in a bearish channel. Now we do need to put in a potential either double bottom or obviously potentially put in a higher low before we actually attempt to reverse higher towards the upside. Okay, so that's basically where we are. We do have an unfilled gap above, which is quite small at 18,000, but at the moment no real sign of any reversal on the Dow 30. Okay, let's look at the Dow Transportation. Dow Transportation, the HNS formation has been hit, target completed on the 60-minute chart. Daily chart at the moment, you are holding that horizontal support, so a good sign there. Okay, so that itself is confirming or telling you that you are into a potential support zone for the Dow Jones as well, given the fact that that diagonal trend line is there. So it's a positive sign. Okay, 10-minute chart, again we finished positive. We did get to this gap level up here, obviously a potential close and obviously resistance. You do have a resistance here, but given the fact that we pivoted off the lows and put in a double bottom, it's a good sign. Okay, the Dow Transport certainly are giving you a good sign with regards to the Dow potentially moving higher. Okay, so that certainly is a bullish signal from my perspective from the Dow. Okay, now let's have a look at the Nasdaq now. The Nasdaq, obviously you have slammed into gap fill support around the 4300 level. I'm not concerned, but I'm worried, slightly worried, given the fact that the actual German DAX failed to propel and force this index higher. That's my only concern with regards to the Nasdaq. There certainly is some type of lag at the moment or misunderstanding with regards to the divergence between the German DAX and the Nasdaq. So that is certainly a concern from my perspective. You are into diagonal trendline support, same as the Dow. Okay, so diagonal trendline support, gap fill support, fib 50% support. This is a solid support level, and I certainly expect a potential thrust and a move higher. Okay, that's basically my interpretation of the Nasdaq. Now I will confirm that I have been long on the Nasdaq from the 4330 region, so I'll declare my position just in case you want to know my bias and you think my judgment here is biased. Okay, so certainly declare my current trade, which is Nasdaq long. Okay, that's it. Well, that's my current trade. Okay, 60-minute chart of the Nasdaq at present. Like I said, you are coming into that gap support around the 4298 level, so watch out for that. Again, I'm very surprised that we've closed that gap. Given the DAX move, I expected the gap above to close. Given the fact that the DAX has obviously gone past 11,800, I expected the gap above to close before we attempted to close the gap below. So, again, baffled, confused, call it what you want. The divergence is certainly broken, especially after the H&S target has been completed, and that was a perfect catalyst for a short squeeze, given the fact that we hold the 200 MA. That obviously hasn't been the case. Okay, so take 10-minute chart now on the Nasdaq. At the moment, we are in this potential phase. Let me just see if I can just draw this in properly. Okay, let's take the pivot high from here. Just connect all these pivots here. Not respecting that. Okay. Okay, nothing really other than today's candle. Really, that's the only trend line that is being respected, and obviously this here. Okay, so you've got a downward sloping wedge or channel, should I say. You have the unfilled gap above at 4413, so be wary of that. Looking for a potential reversal pattern at the moment. I'm not seeing anything at present. So the Nasdaq itself on the 10 minutes certainly remains weak, and it obviously closed weak, and obviously the Nasdaq, as you can see on here as well, certainly is thrusting lower, wants to close this gap. That gap seems to be a magnet. Now obviously if that gap doesn't hold, then we do have another gap below, so be wary of that. But I will be very surprised if you don't hold that gap. That is very, very bearish if we fail to hold that. So again, that's certainly something need to be taken heed and taken note of. We do have previous resistance equal support, so that certainly needs to be taken into account as well. This zone here around the 4292 and the 4323, solid support zone. Again, like I said, you have an unfilled gap above, and given the fact that European markets have obviously blasted to new highs, you are expecting a Nasdaq to follow suit. Okay, so biotechs have still remain strong on the daily chart. Obviously we've closed the gap, just looking for consolidation here. 60-minute chart, as again we held that previous resistance equal support. Dip below, obviously have a reverse now to the upside. So at the moment, nothing really bearish with regards to the biotechs. The 10-minute chart, at the moment, again we came off, no lower lows, lower highs. So certainly holding its own, and very, very impressive strength. Okay, especially given the Nasdaq obviously has been absolutely annihilated. Okay, so daily chart of the semicons, obviously we failed, pivot low. We are into this fib retracement now at around the 38% level. Okay, so certainly worth keeping an eye out for that. Previous resistance equals support and horizontal support here. Obviously we failed the bull flag, so the market has sold off quite substantially. And again, it's all about the catch up with the German DAX. That's all I can stress for now. Okay, so previous resistance equals so fib 38% and looking for a potential move higher. If we do obviously continue to sell off, then you are looking at a potential here with regards to support at this region here below, which will be 92.6. But again, given the fact that the Apple stock is certainly into support, we have news now with regards to Snapchat. Confirms breaking news: Alibaba plans to invest in Snapchat at 15 billion valuation. Obviously that's bullish, certainly with regards to tech news, and that will certainly send the Nasdaq higher from my perspective. Okay, mergers and acquisitions, buyouts, call it what you want. Okay, it increases investment, and obviously certainly gets everybody else excited in the tech field. Everybody else is looking for a potential investment, and valuations rise. It's just the way this game is played. Okay, so that's basically what we're looking for. Okay, and certainly Nasdaq, for my conclusion, is certainly into solid support, and obviously semicons and the biotechs certainly confirm that. Okay, the next step is the S&P 500, which is very important. Okay, so let's go to the S&P 500 and see what we can decipher from there. Okay, daily chart, key trend line certainly holding. Okay, certainly is being respected for now. You are into the fib 61, 50% retracement resistance, so certainly two areas of support. 60-minute chart, you are looking at H&S completed, which equals a short squeeze anyway, and you're looking at horizontal support 2042, if not then 2036. So again, solid support. 10-minute chart, you've broken out this falling contracting wedge pattern, which is potentially bullish. You're building a base here, and we'll see exactly how it transpires. Obviously a move higher above the 2047, and that gets the bulls excited, and you're looking for a potential short squeeze. You do have an unfilled gap at 2080, so watch out for that and observe the 2080 level, and certainly mark that on your chart. Okay, now to cross-reference and corroborate the strength and weakness with regards to the actual S&P 500, then it's important to study and the update with regards to the Russell. The Russell itself, although my chart isn't updated at the moment, the Russell, unfortunately that's the only indices that Pro Real Time don't do, which is a shame really, but that's just the way in which it is. We have to take everything with a pinch. Obviously you can't get everything in life, so let's just have a look at this 1 second. Okay, show you this. Okay, now this is quite impressive today with regards to the Russell. Okay, the Russell itself was very bullish from my understanding and my perspective. We had a bullish engulfing candle on a daily chart. On the 60-minute chart, the market thrusted off the lows, has an unfilled gap that wants to close, and obviously has this bullish engulfing candle to deal with, so that's certainly a good sign. Okay, so again we've put in a pivot low on the Russell, the IWM, but we still haven't put in a pivot low on the S&P 500, which obviously is just a matter of time, given the fact that the Russell is one of the leaders. Okay, so certainly take that into consideration. Now, another chart that I generally tend to observe is the Wilshire 5000. Okay, so looking at a daily chart of the Wilshire 5000, you are again you've put in a doji candle, so certainly a promising sign there. Okay, take the pivot low from here, connect the pivot low there. You're into diagonal trend line support and 50-61% retracement support. Daily chart, you have disrespected this trend line. The H&S target was the 21,960, 29,160, 21. So looking at 300-point move, and you have obviously more or less exceeded that. And you are looking at this horizontal resistance, the previous resistance equals support on the Wilshire. So again, another indication that this is certainly looking at potential move higher. You have put in a pivot low, or a double bottom, shall we say. Okay, so that needs to be respected, and this is where we are, and we're looking for a potential reversal on this market. So you put in a base, right, falling contracting wedge pattern broken out of. Given the fact that the Russell has already confirmed its pivot low, this is confirming its pivot low. Obviously the S&P 500 will obviously confirm its pivot low and also move higher as well. Okay, that's my understanding, especially given the fact that the actual FTSE is into its 200 MA is held, and the European markets have obviously propelled higher quite substantially. Now at present, what the focus that we must put all our attention really should be on the dollar index, because that's the if that falls, the markets will start to obviously start to rally. Because the inverse relationship with the US dollar is certainly back on the agenda. Okay, so this is basically where we are, because it's all about interest rates. So You have it does look exhausted to me with regards to the US dollar index, so look for a potential move higher. The Kiwi has already kick-started the rally or the sell-off in the Dow. Sorry, sell-off in the dollar, given the fact that they're not going to be raising rates, and that's obviously sent the Kiwi higher. Those of you on my fundamental analysis service know that I am swing long the Kiwi. Okay, so you have a multiple level of gaps. So you've got one gap there, as you can see. You have a gap here, as you can see. Bear with me. Here we go. So you've got this gap here, which certainly needs to close. So the more gaps, the more bearish this dollar index will be. You've got a gap down here that certainly needs to be taken into consideration as well. Okay, so multiple gaps, multiple reasons for this dollar index to come lower. Okay, so that's basically my interpretation of the US dollar chart. Okay, and that's basically what we're looking for: potential gap fill, gap fill, gap fill on the way down. Okay, folks. So risk on, risk off. Wax on, wax off. You know my conclusion. We're looking for a potential move higher. Goodbye now.